Welcome once again. Excuse me. I'm David Etienne, certified public accountant, and your host of podcast Crossroads, Navigating Business Challenges. And this is, of course, presented to you on our Etienne Strategic Management Consulting platform. So once again, we're here for another exciting episode, if I may call it that, of Crossroads, Navigating Business Challenges. Now, of course, we have been looking at some areas on our podcast, and as the name suggests, we have been mining, so to speak, into the details of the things that pose challenges to businesses and exactly how we go about navigating them. So this afternoon, we are looking at change. Interesting topic, change. Why interesting is because change is a commonality of life. That is what it's about. Change, that is life. And so change is something that happens whether or not we are prepared, whether or not we want it. But it's interesting that there are aspects to change that impacts our personal lives and our business lives and business decisions in a manner that to just watch change happen, to just watch change pass by, is to court business disaster. So what we find is that change management is something that is very prominent in what we call the academic literature. And that is something that we need to explore to see what are some of the challenges, what are some of the potential pitfalls that we as business persons may face, may come across if we fail to seriously, intentionally address this issue of change and the management of change. Now, as I promised you that when we speak on these very important topics, yes, you will hear it from me, but then we always want to invite the people who are in the know. We want to invite the people who not only talk the talk, but walk the walk. They know what it's all about. So this afternoon, I really have with me a very, very special guest, which happened to be a colleague, a friend, and it's very, very, very exciting for me to introduce to you this afternoon none other than Mr. Kerry Bass. Now, Kerry, and I'm going to basically introduce Kerry to us, I have Kerry's bio here, and interesting enough, and I'm just bringing Kerry live to us. So, Kerry the man.
Good afternoon, good evening. Great to be with you.
Yes, sir. Great to have you. So I was also just saying to my listeners that this afternoon we are going to be looking at the very important subject of change, yes, in a general sense, but particularly how it impacts businesses and how, most importantly, businesses that fail to seriously take cognizance of the implication of change management could really be courting disaster. So just before we jump into what I expect to be a very interesting discussion, my viewers, as I said earlier on, Kerry is my associate, my friend, and we labor together on other grounds. So by way of introduction, Kerry is really the CEO and principal of Potential to Reality Consulting, which is a consulting firm. And prior to that, Kerry was a former senior member of the American Society for Quality. Okay, he was an executive consultant that specialized in enterprise transformation, operational excellence, organizational change management, a number of hats. Now, with over 25 years of experience, Kerry has led major change initiatives for government agencies, non-profit organizations, and commercial enterprises. Kerry holds certification in Lean Six Sigma, quality management, and project management, among other things. Kerry served as the 2023 ASQ Treasurer and Chairman of the Center for Electoral Quality and Integrity. And of course, Kerry's passion is helping organizations and societies to achieve and sustain excellence, focusing on stakeholder well-being. Again, Kerry, very happy to have you, man. Very happy to have you here, sir.
Thank you, sir. Again.
Yes, sir. Now, Kerry, as you heard in my introduction, change for me is just a natural occurrence of life. And usually when we talk about things that naturally occur, then there is seldom any particular interest in paying special attention to it because, hey, if I pay attention to it, it will happen. If I ignore it, it will happen. Let it flow, man. Let it flow. Just let it flow. And so when we talk about change, and then now we start to look at change that is finding its place in the academic literature, which would imply to me that there's a significance to the management of change, then it tells me that it is something that all business persons, business entities ought to take very, very seriously. As an introduction, tell us about this change as far as organizational changes are concerned.
Well, just as you pointed out, change is a natural process. Well, it's not. It's a natural process in the fact that there's nothing that we can do to prevent it. It's inevitable. But one of the things that's most interesting is people are resistant to change, which makes it most interesting. And that's the big danger is, organizations are made up of people and societies of organizations of people. And those people tend to have a reminiscent view of a past that they always thought was better, nicer, easier, or whatever. And so they're resistant to change. A lot of people are afraid of the future. It may not be good where I'm at, but it's better to have the devil that I know than the devil that I don't know. And so for a number of reasons, individuals and then those people in those organizations collectively resist change and don't prepare for it, which is kind of, it seems like it's kind of an oxymoron. You would think that since it's so inevitable and we recognize it intellectually and from an obvious observational standpoint, you would think that we would accept that, but we don't. And choose to leverage it, but people do not.
Got you. Now, in the business arena, there's a lot of talk, and there's always been talk about management. And it's interesting to note that businesses and business operators and owners, CEOs, etc., are very proactive in managing things that are quote unquote tangible, meaning all managers think of cash flow management. Why? Because, hey, it is very obvious, and it will be obvious if you fail to manage your cash flow, what will be the outcome? Inventory management. It will be obvious. You're going to run out of raw material. So those things are almost, I would say, tangible things. And you can readily see failure to manage these things is to court disaster. Okay? Less so is the obviousness of managing change. Okay? So when it comes to, let us say, strategically managing an entity, a lot of importance is given to cash flow management, inventory management, even HR management. But when we talk about change management, it seemed to be that, so you tell me, what is it about change management that causes it to be more in the background? And is it as a result of the absence of an evidence that not to manage will court disaster. What is it about change?
I think you hit it on the term when you talked about strategy. What I found is that most leaders, even executive leaders, really don't focus on strategy, which is interesting because the whole definition of management is to prepare for the future, to set the environment in place for the future. And you have employees and others that are managing or engaged in the operations for today. So cash flow management, inventory management, those are short-term strategies, but they really have more focus on direct operations. I'm thinking about getting stuff in and out today. I'm looking at my bank account today, and I'm looking at making sure that I have enough funds to meet my operational responsibilities, payroll, paying my bills, keeping my location viable, and those things today. And sure enough, today has a lot of mind focus because it is right in front of you. And if you don't deal with it, then obviously things stop right away. But one of the things that you find that's really interesting, and from a strategic standpoint, and we're here in metropolitan Atlanta, and in the news for the past weekend is that the city of Atlanta has faced a water crisis. Well, why? It's because the water infrastructure of Atlanta, like a whole lot of other cities, is ancient. And so they had not prepared for strategically, how do you manage an infrastructure that is aging and continues to grow with the demands of a growing population? So now, today, I found it interesting that some of the local executive leaders are beginning to say, we really need to start talking about raising funds, preparing for the change of our infrastructure. So I think, again, it really boils down to a lack of strategic focus. Even though we like to think that we are strategic because we're in the roles that have strategy in place, we don't spend near enough time in strategic thought and strategic strategic management.
Got you. Continuing on the vein of strategic management, when we look at change, I see change under two broad categories, maybe three, but there are two main ones for me, and I want to get a feedback from you on that. Now, there are changes that are introduced as a strategy measure, and I view those changes as proactive, preemptive changes, okay? There are changes that are introduced in response to or in order to mitigate against a known challenge or a perceived challenge. So one change is basically at the heart of it is to say, if we do this, we will be better off. The other, if we do this, we will limit the downside, we will limit the negative effect of ABC. Going back to the whole concept of resistance to or acceptance of, given the different focus of those two change decisions, do you think that the acceptability, the embracing of these changes will be different based on the intention behind it? That it is for our growth and development as opposed to it is for us to not have to close down plant B?
Well, generally, people are motivated by fear. And so I find that that's one of the things that actually moves people quickly. While we all like to think that we'd like to prepare ourselves to take advantage of and to leverage future opportunities, what we really are most motivated to action on is fear of loss. And so if you for instance, notice that your competition, you had a product that that was making you a lot of revenue, or service that was making you a lot of revenue, and your competition was far away. But all of a sudden, somebody out of the blue introduces something that challenges that viability of your product and your potential revenue stream. Now you have your attention. It has your attention, and you're beginning to think, if I don't do something and I don't do it quickly, then they can capture part of my market, and then I'll have to change my strategy and react to them. And so generally I find that fear moves people more quickly than opportunity.
Okay, okay, okay. So then the whole thing of acceptance, what would you offer as some of the key components that will not guarantee, but at least enhance acceptability of change of whatever nature? What are the key, some of the key components that would be necessary?
There are a number of change models out there and change methodologies. And one that I particularly adhere to, I think I'd heard of it first, and it's also one of the organizations that I'm certified in their methodology, is ProSci. And they have a change methodology called ADKAR. But it basically has 5 elements. It is awareness, desire, knowledge, ability, and reinforcement. And so in order to be more successful at a change sticking with an organization or even an individual, is first of all, you have to be aware that there's something different that you can do. For instance, we all know that at some point in time we kind of age, and this is an inevitable thing. And we may want to find an alternative, but so far there's nothing out there that prevents that. So there's no awareness that I can buy this new youth pill that stops the aging process for me. But once it happens, then if a alternative to my reality or to what I'm afraid of or to my risk is available or exists, then I have to desire that. And that desire is based on what I find valuable. What's the value propositions that it offers? Does it make it less or likely for me to be challenged or not? For instance, one of the things I've been spending a lot of time on in my podcast and other things is in AI. AI is burst onto the awareness of many organizations and societies right now. And it's desirable in a lot of places, but it's also not desirable because one of the things that we're finding out is that many of the roles that we currently have, it challenges the stability and may even eliminate the need for some of those roles and tasks that we currently have. So AI becomes undesirable. I'm aware of it, but it's undesirable. But for a desirable option, then it's kind of like you can see it builds on itself. So once I become aware and I desire that opportunity that's there, then I need to know how to leverage it and take advantage of it. And so that's where training and education takes place. And then that training and education builds the knowledge that gives me the capability or the ability to be able to leverage that new opportunity. And then once I have that ability and I put that into action and I'm seeing those results, I have to reinforce that cycle because people tend to want to we reminisce about the good old days. And so one of the things you probably remember hearing in our history books is that some of the old explorers from Europe, when they came to the New World, they burned the ships. There was no going back.
Yeah, no, that's
so
right.
That reinforced the fact that, this new ability that we have in this new place, you're going to have to continue to use it because there is no going back.
Got you. And of course, there's this saying, and one of the things that they're saying, if it's not broken, do not try and fix it. That's that's not a thing, why are you trying to fix it? It's not broken.
Well, there's a perception of that. You know, one of the um, tenets of quality management, particularly advanced quality management, Lean Six Sigma, and some of those others, is the concept of continual or continuous improvement. You need to get better. My Lean Six Sigma mentor, Greg Watson, has a definition of quality as the persistent pursuit of goodness tightly coupled with the relentless avoidance of badness. And
Mm.
so, what I have found out, though, and what the others have found out, is badness depends on our knowledge at the time. And I like to think of like looking at fossil fuels as one example. Fossil fuels was a tremendous opportunity, and when it went through that change cycle of people becoming aware of fossil fuels, petroleum-based products, and all of this petroleum industry and all this energy that allowed you to do so many fantastic things. And so we went rapidly from awareness into desire, and then knowledge about how to put that into being and activity. So we now have a fossil fuel energy capability worldwide. And that has been reinforced because as industrialized nations have been able to show that many wealth producing, those ones that produce the petroleums also reinforce that. So we have reinforced that cycle so very, very well. But now we found out that fossil fuels have a very, very detrimental side effect. And so now we're having to go about a different level of change. And so what we're dealing with is this reminiscence of the capabilities that the fossil fuel industry produces for us, and the good that even though that it may produce badness, but there's people that would tend to ignore the badness in hopes that it will go away or something else will happen or maybe it doesn't exist. And so that's why we're in the midst of this big dilemma right now worldwide about how do we change our energy infrastructure to eliminate the badness of fossil fuels. It wasn't that fossil fuels were bad then, but now times have changed and the environment has changed, environmental change, and now we're having to do something else. And that again gets to that fear factor. If we do not, the experts are telling us that we may kill ourselves, our planet, because of not addressing the badness of the current state that we have.
Got you. And on that same vein, this whole concept of business model is interesting. Just to add a little bit here is that usually, yes, a business has a model, the way of doing things to achieve the goal at hand. But over time, as you rightly say, things change, market conditions change, and therefore that business model, although you would not necessarily throw it out and replace it, it definitely needs tweaking. It needs reworking, retooling, etc. But usually the changes that are required to revamp this model, although it can be seen, there's still some level of resistance. Here where I'm going with this. There's this whole concept of stakeholders.
Yes.
Stakeholders. Now, in the past, stakeholders were almost identified purely as shareholders.
Exactly.
Over time, it has been discovered that no. Stakeholders are all the elements, components, entities, individuals that an organization interacts with.
Right.
So therefore, we now come into the understanding that our personnel or human resource people or staff, those are critical stakeholders in the functioning of a business.
Yes.
Having said that, is it possible, therefore, that a company that is able to communicate to its staff that you are a stakeholder in this business, you matter to the advancement, development, success, sustainability of this business, would that feed into the ease with which any changes that were introduced would be better integrated, would be more readily accepted, because I now know that yes, it may be a little difficult, but then it is for the betterment of an organization where I have a significant particular interest, and I'm recognized for that.
You're right, and would, as long as that is actually true.
Okay.
One of the things that's most interesting, and I've talked about that a number of times too, is that you really have to be real about who you are and who your organization is. The leader and the culture of an organization is a reflection of the culture of the leader. And so what the leader truly believes gets instituted into what really happens. So if an organization does not really believe that the employees and the staff are really valuable stakeholders, if they think of them as interchangeable tools or something that that I can easily replace, then they don't behave that way. And so even though they may say the words, the reality comes out. One of the things that I've said, and I've said in a couple of different places now too, is that, and you may remember, I believe it was the CEO of Shopify a couple of years ago, came out and said, all these leaders that say their companies are family are not really telling the truth. My company is not a family. You're not my family because you work at Shopify. What you are is a member of a high-performing team. And so what I expect from you is I'm not going to act paternalistically. I'm not going to do things. I'm expecting things and I'm doing things for the best interest of the company. And we mutually succeed when the best interests of the company and your efforts align. And so therefore, if you're going to be part of Shopify, you need to know that you need to bring your A game every day and expect to show up and do what needs to be done to meet the business needs of our organization. I found that very, very refreshing. Now, a lot of people kind of said, oh, wow, what did he mean? Well, he was really having a high level of integrity. And that's what I find that's necessary for change to happen. If you say one thing and that's different from who you are day to day, then people won't believe you. So you can say, we're all going to go in this different direction and we're going to try to make it better and I'm going to take care of everybody. But if you just had a layoff, people won't believe you. And it really doesn't matter what you said. Your actions speak so loud that what you say has no effect.
Got you. Great. So we have with us today Mr. Kerry Bass. And Kerry is what we like to call a content expert in terms of his knowledge base. And today we're looking at change in a general sense, but yes, more targeted to change within the realm of business organizations, and in particular, the acceptance, the challenges that businesses face in having an acceptance level to the changes that are inevitable, that are necessary. And therefore, we're focusing today on managing change. Kerry, now I've heard of change fatigue.
Yep.
I don't know if it's a fancy coinage of a term, but change fatigue. Tell me about that. What is that all about?
Well, one thing about change is that it is not a permanent condition. Even though it goes on continuously, one change will have a beginning and an end, and then it will happen. You'll adjust to another change, whether you deal with that or not. One of the biggest concerns and the biggest issues that I've seen in helping organizations be able to implement a change is that they don't move deliberately and fast enough, or they have not thought about all the elements required of the change. And so they end up getting the organization in a state of of flux, but then that never comes to fruition. The target never becomes reality, and then another change happens to be able to adjust to that failure, and then something else happens, and then a lot of times what happens is an organization will announce a major change, and there will be a lot of activity and communications and hoopla, and then it goes away and nothing happens. And so you can do that one or two times, but then the organization and the people in that organization learn, and they learn you really don't mean what you say. And so they get tired of this change. And so it gets harder and harder every time you try to adjust for a new change. And so that change fatigue sets in, as I say, yeah, he's, what's the change of today? He's changed every time. And so it is a reality of that people get tired of being in a state of change.
Okay. And coming out of what you're saying, I'm hearing periodic deliverables. So in other words, I'm hearing a change plan, a program of work that will take us from here to there. But what I'm hearing from you is that, yes, it may be really a 1-year change process, but what could help is that if we have quarterly milestones. So people are saying, boy, yes, it's a whole year, but then I can see at the first quarter end that we have achieved this amount. At the second quarter, I can see the movement. So although it is a year-long process, given that we have interim deliverables, it is evidence of a progress in the right direction. I don't know if all changes can be implemented in that way, but is it your view that maybe that is something that organizations, maybe have implemented or should consider, that in managing change, it may be more digestible if you find a way to dish it out in portions as opposed to a carte blanche change?
Well, not necessarily just in portions. It's important. Pacing is important, but also speed. Time is not your friend. Matter of fact, one of my associates and past instructor, his name is Dr. Robert Miles, former dean of Harvard Business School and Emory University School of Management, Goethe Business School, and others. And I've worked with him on a major change that we did for a large international technology firm in the services division. And he has a framework that I've adopted and modified and customized that I use in my practice also. And that framework basically says that you need to, first off, start with the leadership and identify and deal with reality. Where are you going and why? And what do you need to do to get there? And you need to get a very few simple elements as the major strategies of that change. Then you need to make that change into a rapid program, such that the whole change goes from launch to the point of starting it over, reinforcing the change. You need to accomplish that within 2 years or less. And so you need to then space your change and stage it such that you develop your ideas with some help from somebody to help you think through as a leader. What is the 3 things that I need to do to go to where I want to go? And then you need to align your team, your key leaders, to be able to see who is going to be able to go with you. That's one of the modifications that I made to that. And rather than waiting to some point in time later on, you really need to decide who's going with you on this change and who's not. And deal with that upfront very quickly within the first 3 months of any change that you're going to have happen. And then once you have your leadership team in place, they need to figure out for their responsibility areas of the organization, how does this cascade all the way from the top to the bottom, the line people, the delivery workers? What's going to be different about what they do tomorrow versus what they do today? and get them aligned and committed and willing and capable of making that change happen. And then you launch that change, and you then have periodic reviews. You have milestones that you set up, like any other project.
Right.
You have milestones along the way, and you're going to manage against those milestones and communicate your capability and your progress toward those milestones to get to that mark. With the idea is that we're going to be where we're going to be within 2 years.
So I'm hearing, pick them quickly before they know what hit them. I'm just kidding. I'm just kidding. Now, what you just described or illustrate or outlined there, has that anything to do with what I hear termed as the timelessness of change? Is that the timelessness? I'm hearing that concept sometimes, or is it timeliness of change?
Timeliness.
Timeliness. Okay. So, as I say, get it executed as quickly as possible.
Yeah, once you start, you need to go. Now things happen, something happens, then you may have to stop and reorganize and do something. But understand that every time that you stop and have to restart, now you have a resistance built up because people say, "Oh, I thought we were going here." So now why are we changing again? What happened? Yeah. So it gets harder to make that change if you have to stop and restart.
Got you. So from a general perspective, if I was to say, Kerry, give us the 101 of change management. Give us something we can put in our little reference manual that we carry in our top pocket and we can pull out from time to time. What would you say?
I would give you that process. First of all, starting out with the leader, doing some serious introspection and looking at your environment and where it is that you are. Where is your organization and where does it need to be? And what are my values and my expectations and my capabilities in this organization and the capabilities of the others that I have in it. And you need to have a serious assessment up front about the difference between where we are and the difference between where we need to be. You need to confront reality and develop a plan. Then you need to develop just a few key strategies, no more than 3, of what you're going to change in this change period. The major difference, but that you can be able to tell what we used to be is different than what we are because of these 3 things. Those are the things that you need to focus on, and those are the strategic elements of your change strategy. Then you need to devise a top to bottom responsibility structure to be able to say, what am I going to do different? And get that commitment and assignment so that people are actually doing the things differently than they need to do. One thing you hear a lot of people say is that I hear what we say and we're changing, but I keep doing the same thing as I always did, so I don't know any different. Doesn't make any difference to me. Right. But you need to make that change happen, and then you need to launch it as a major event, and you got to communicate and have regular milestones and communications around those milestones. And then when you get there, you celebrate that we're on the other side, and then we're going to start reinforcing it with the next set of things that we're going to do to be able to establish this foothold and prepare for the next change.
Got you. Word to the wise. I found it interesting. I see that one of your favorite quote is a quote that you have adopted from an anonymous source, and I find it interesting because, just to reiterate, Kerry's organization is called Potential to Reality. Potential to Reality. And one of his favorite quotes is, potential means nothing if you don't do anything with it. Exactly. Potential means nothing if you don't do anything with it.
Exactly.
Yeah, great word of wisdom. So tell me a little bit about potential to reality differ. What Kerry and potential to reality? What do you offer?
Well, we are a strategic management firm, and I like to call it boutique because we're made up primarily of me, but then I have several associates that are very senior in their careers, and they've been through lots of changes and are specialists in any particular area that they're focusing on. And we take on a limited set of engagements for organizations that are really trying to have a greater impact on society from what they do. The products that they deliver, the services that they deliver, or the government services or not-for-profit services that they deliver. That's the type of thing that we spend our focus on. And our focus is on helping those leaders be able to prepare themselves and get their skills and resources and their plan together and implement that strategy.
Great, great, great. Now, although we're focusing on change and change management, I know one of your key areas is what you like to refer to. It's referred to as societal excellence. Societal excellence. And I can hear that being so closely intertwined with enacting changes.
Exactly.
Bringing forward change. This is societal excellence. Help me here. I am hearing from the concept of societal excellence where an organization is able to achieve its organizational goal, but is more likely to do so successfully if it engages in a way that promotes excellence at a broader societal level. In my business profit-focused mind, I'm saying, okay, that may sound to me like something that is not so contributing to profitability. But tell me about it. How does societal excellence feed into this picture?
Well, and as I'm sure you're aware, and you and I had conversations before, being profitable does not mean that you're not contributing to society. And matter of fact, if you're not profitable, you have the lack of ability to do anything to help society. Even from a not-for-profit standpoint, if you don't have a sufficient return that allows you to expand the services that you do, how you choose to use those returns to grow the benefit for what you're doing to society. That's the difference between profit and not-for-profit, is that one, you return it to stakeholders or stockholders, and the other is that you reinvest it for expansion of capability. And so therefore, there's not necessarily it's wrong to assume that because I'm doing good, I'm doing well. Matter of fact, that's another cliche that I like to have, is that I am a firm believer in doing well by doing good. If you're providing a product or service that benefits society and stakeholders overall, you will continue to be successful, and you'll be able to adjust and be more successful in the future. But if you have a very narrow focus, like only on profitability, then your timeline and your existential window for your organization is very narrow, because the world changes, people's desires changes, or new knowledge, like in the instance of fossil fuels, comes about, and now if you've only depended on profitability and not prepared yourself, then now you're in dire straits, and you'll go out of existence.
Got you. And I must also inform my listeners that some of these virtues and values that you hear coming from Kerry is also linked to the fact that he's an ordained, yes sir, believe it or not, Kerry is an ordained missionary in the Baptist faith, so that again will bring some of the values. And although I did not say it at the beginning, Kerry, being the consummate information reservoir, is also currently pursuing a doctorate in business administration, because the intention is that as a professional, Kerry wants to be at the top of his game, and therefore be able to impart to us things like words of wisdom, broaden our understanding, and put us on a path from what you call it to reality, from
to reality.
Exactly. So there you have it, Kerry. It was a pleasure. It was a pleasure speaking with you. I don't know if you have any final takeaway to leave with us, because you have given us quite a chock full.
My friend, thank you again for having me. It's a pleasure being on your podcast. I look forward to a chance for you being on mine.
Oh, yes, sir. Looking forward to it. Looking forward to it. Yeah.
And the idea of, and I appreciate us working together, particularly in our research areas of trying to make this a reality of
Yes, sir.
societal excellence. And
Perfect.
that's kind of where we want to go. I'd say let your light shine, such that you do well by doing good.
By doing good. Great, great. And as usual, to our listeners, happy to have you with us, and always want to give you a direct link to our guests, because there are a lot more as you can understand. And having listened to Kerry, I know you would have identified with some of the things that we speak on, but you would have also, your own questions and concerns that are specific to your organization. And so I need for you to link with Kerry on his website, makingitreality.com. Makingitreality.com is Kerry's website, as you can see it, and the number is there, email address. So make sure you link with Kerry, website, email, telephone number, and so you can have your one-to-one with Kerry, so that you can actually move from the great potential that you have, I have no doubt, to the reality that you so badly seek. And I know it will be yours. Thank you very much, Kerry, for coming on, my brother, and we'll be speaking.
Thank you, sir. Really appreciate it.
Good, good. And to my listeners, thank you very much for joining. Thank you very, very much for joining me today on Crossroads, where we discuss pertinent subject matters that will help us to navigate the various business challenges that we confront from time to time. Wonderful. So until the next time, maybe 2 Thursdays from today, we again will have another guest where we speak on another very important topic, all with the intention of assisting us in successfully navigating business challenges. So I'm David, your host, saying bye for now, and work hard, be the best that you can be. Bye.
Go to etnstrategicmc.com. Check out the latest episode of Crossroads, Navigating Business Challenges with David Etienne.